Well,
Uh,
hello, District H members, other members that are looking at our podcast here. This is Moral Scott. I'm here with Bobby Juice, head coach and chief bicep officer of District H. You'll see a couple of new things going on. We're using Riverside FM today to record this video and audio wise. So let us know what you think about that. But reason why I brought Mr. Robert Johnson here today to speak was we've been having a lot of new members, new faces come into the gym, and a lot of people are wondering how to get better. So, Robert, what I was wondering is what strategies do you see people use most often when they're just getting started to try and get better?
This is a pretty common one. So I typically like to do this when I coach. When I go around the room, I'll kind of ask people what their strategies typically are. We usually get hard and fast, hang on for dear life, slow and steady, very reserved, just going to like move through it, kind of flow through it. And then we just have the I'm going to survive strategy, which is similar to the hard and fast strategy that I listed as the first one. But those are typically the three big golden ones that people like to throw out as I ask them what their strategy is going to be. And it rarely changes.
For sure. And you do a good job of that. Yeah, I usually hear you discussing that with people as they get going. When people are telling you those things, what's your usual retort or response to those strategies?
I like to add some specificity to it. Like I try to make people think about the movements, the rep scheme, how they're going to break things up, how they're going to go about kind of gaming the workout, and kind of trying to set them up with a plan to execute and figure out what's going to work best for them. Say if they struggle with one movement, they're really good at another movement, just trying to figure out how they can best approach the workout to get the most out of it for them specifically.
Yeah, for sure, which is a good strategy. Do you think most people approach it that way, or even after you've given them that poke in that right direction, they're like, thanks for those words, we're still putting the pedal to the metal?
So usually what happens is they'll get to the end of whatever 15-minute AMRAP it is, and they'll be like, oh, you were like right about that one part, but like I didn't listen until about 8 minutes in. And I'm like, oh, cool, sick. Like, that's awesome. So it's typically like after the fact, because hindsight, as we know, is 2020. People come back to me and they're like, you were like right about that. And then the next week I'll ask them again, and they're like, hard and fast, I'm going to hang on, I'm going to try my best. And I'm just like, didn't we just have this discussion last week about what's going on? But yeah, typically people like to, that's how I kind of teach people, like to experience it themselves first, and then I'll kind of re-ask them and be like, okay, so how did that work for you? But usually after the fact, they kind of get it.
A little trial by fire.
Yeah, it's the best way to learn.
And for new people too, it can be, they're trying to establish that baseline, because a lot of people, they're used to going into a gym like a LA Fitness, other type of Globo gym, right? And they're benching, they might be squatting, maybe they come from an endurance athlete background, but they're not really doing all these movements together at this type of intensity. So, I mean, how do you most recommend people to kind of get these skills and learn how to create that baseline quicker?
I would say the best thing I've seen work is kind of monkey see, monkey do. Like, obviously we have the coach there, like going through it and kind of demonstrating everything for you. So trying your best to mimic the movement of the coach specifically, probably going to be one of the best movers in the room, hopefully, depending on what gym you're at. But going to be one of the most best movers in the, you never know, the best mover in the room. So your best bet is to look at the coach as they're demonstrating the movement and be like, okay, what are they doing with their hips? How low are they sitting? When are they pressing the bar overhead? Like, these little nuanced things are probably going to be to your benefit if you emulate those as best you can. So I'd say number one, monkey see, monkey do. And number two, like you said, kind of testing that baseline, figuring out where your red line threshold is. And so you kind of have to figure that out, because if you come from, say, running 5Ks, not everyone, but a lot of people know what a 5K is. It's probably anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes, maybe 30 minutes of running. Like, everyone knows how running feels. It sucks a lot of times. But for the most part, not many people know what thrusters into pull-up 21, 15, 15, 9, 9 actually feels like when you go full speed. So testing yourself a little bit. But I would say also trying not to overdo it, which there's like a fine gray line with it. Like it's you got to toe that line fairly well. But I think especially for those newer people coming in for the first few weeks, ask a lot of questions and just make sure you're focusing on the coach and listening to what they say. Because 9 times out of 10, the coach will be like, okay, for this first set of movements, we want you no more than 2 sets. So if you pick up the bar and you can barely do 5 reps of said 21 set, you're probably going to have to lighten the load. So just picking up and being hyper aware of what the coach is doing and saying is probably going to be your best bet.
It's a fair point. Yeah, I see that all the time. People are, looking around and, well, everyone else has a 53-pound kettlebell. It's my second week. I'm ready for the big leagues. And
no,
yeah, usually that doesn't end up super well. But, what I think is interesting about the type of fitness that we do, being very varied and at a high intensity and mixing all of these different disciplines together, is that there's a ton of different skills to learn. And so with all these different skills, I mean, obviously there's practice outside of the workouts that can be done to help these things out. Do you see a lot of people in the gym working outside of those normal class hours to try and get better on certain movements?
Without being mean, no. Probably not, to be honest, no. I've had like a couple people come to me, pull me to the side and like ask for stuff, but it's typically probably the same 15 to 30% of the actual population. I think that's a good point that you're making, is if you're not sure how to do a movement, once again, probably grabbing a coach and talking to them and trying to figure out how to best practice that, whether you are actually having a coach like take you through it in like a personal training setting, or whether you're just trying to remember the cue the coach gave you or the cue the coach was talking about, whether it be pull down, try to break that bar in half on like a kip swing, whether it be quick wrists on a jump rope, something along those lines, like whether you're spending 5 minutes pre or post actual class time is going to make a difference over the long run. So say you don't do that 5 minutes for a year. You clearly have no time allotted in regards to said skill. You do 5 minutes 3 times a week across an entire year. That's a long time. I'm not that good at math. I'm not going to add that up. That's a decent amount of minutes that you've now practiced said skill. So you're probably going to be better off. You're going to probably be better at the skill than if you didn't spend 5 minutes pre or post class once or twice a week.
Right. Yeah. And that's a great point. So what would you recommend for people? How do they be intentional with that practice time? How are they, hey, I want to get better at pull-ups or really double unders comes to my mind, because I know a lot of our members, proportionally, a lot of them don't do double unders. But I also see during classes, we're not really practicing them too much. It's kind of like, hey, do your singles or we're going to do doubles. And I know personally, when I first started doing this type of fitness and trying to learn double unders, I remember I went into the gym and I said, I'm not leaving here until I get 20 double unders. And I was in there for a long time. And I can remember the coach of the gym coming up to me. He's like, hey, what are you doing? And I was like, no, I told myself I got to get 20. I haven't gotten one yet. We're about 45 minutes in. I'm starting to get a little worried, right? So you can just continue. Like it's not necessarily about amount of time always. It's about how you use that time. So what strategies would you say for people to try and be more intentional with that time?
I think that's a good question. I think it kind of goes how you would go about any given day, right? In regards to, for some people, starting your day out with setting an intention for your day. And then taking the entire day, practicing that mindfulness and that awareness of whatever intention you set. And then at the end of the day, you get to the end of the day and you're like, okay, did I hit my intention on the head? What could I have done better? What did I do badly? What did I do really well? I think taking some of those just small incremental steps, like you've said in regards to setting up yourself with an intention of, okay, you set a good goal of I'm going to do 20 unbroken double unders. That's a pretty big feat for someone who's never done a single double under to come in and just try to bang out 20. Maybe it starts with week 1. I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes and I'm going to practice penguin taps. And then when that 5-minute timer is done, I'm going to grab my rope and I'm going to try doing penguin taps with the actual rope in my hand. So it's kind of like not even like, say, swinging the rope, but just jumping up and down with the handles, just kind of slapping your thighs, something along that lines. And then I'm going to take another minute or two and just actually practice double unders and see what the hell happens.
Mm-hmm.
And week to week, setting yourself up for just those small incremental gains of like, okay, so say that first week you get no double unders. Okay, so next week I'm probably going to do the same thing and try to set myself up for success and not be like, okay, well, I didn't get any, so now this week I need to at least get 5. You know, like you're setting yourself up for failure and kind of a negative vicious cycle in a sense, because you're just going to keep adding reps to something you haven't even attained one of yet. It's like, okay, I want $1 million in the bank by the end of the year, but you haven't saved $1 per day yet. You know, like say, okay, I saved $30 in a month. That's better than say, okay, it's been 12 months. I haven't saved any money, but like I need to save like $5,000 this month. It's like, well, it's probably not going to happen. You should have started with like $1. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, that does. I think that's a really good analogy to put that in perspective. I think people will resonate with that, hopefully, and then start worrying about their financial situation and their fitness situation all at once.
They mesh
So
together.
you mentioned penguin taps, right? And we're talking about different drills that help with different movements. Often we hear it with more gymnastic-based skill movements. Sometimes it can be with barbell movements. But with these different drills, what type of resources do we have available to our members at District H to kind of familiarize them with those drills and help them get better?
You can grab any coach. Any coach is probably well versed in regards to these specific drills. We have resources in regards to some accessory work we do. Sometimes on certain days we come in, we have ourselves set up with doing different drills for different movements. Like we have overhead squat progressions, we have handstand walk progressions, we have different variety of movements in regards to we're practicing on the hang snatch. So we're focusing on the pull from the knee to the hip in regards to Olympic lifting. So we tend to break it down week to week for you. And maybe you come in one week or one day and you're like, wow, I really sucked at that. Like I'm just horrendous at hang snatching. So, okay, maybe we're not going to practice it this next week, but maybe you're going to set yourself up with an intention of like, I'm going to do 3 sets of 5, just empty barbell hang snatch. Maybe I'm going to come to Dustin's barbell class on Thursday evenings and try to have him look at me and watch me because I felt like I really sucked at this. So how am I going to help myself improve? How am I going to help myself become 1% better throughout the day if I'm not practicing those things I suck at? It's like you can hide and run away from all those dragons in the cave and demons and all that good stuff. And you can run far, far, far away. But if you never practice that stuff, you're always going to be bad at it. So you can't really be upset with yourself for continuously sucking if you don't actually put work in to be better at it.
That's a fair point. And, I had a member come up to me the other day, and obviously, I started coaching here at District H, about a month ago. I've coached in the past, but relatively new to the District H community. So many people still see me for the most part as a member, right? And, now that I'm coaching, certain people are looking at it in a little bit of different light. And I had a member come up to me. He's like, well, and it was during the front squats, and was like, well, when do I get to that point of whatever I was squatting, which wasn't, that much. And I ended up not getting all the reps, but that's okay. Right. Right. But, helping them understand, like, it takes time, but it also takes that intentionality behind it and knowing those drills and, continuing practicing. And within those workouts too, like you're saying, pick a strategy where you're testing out something new, as opposed to just, I'm going to go super fast until I can't, or I'm going to look at Joe across from me and I'm going to make sure I'm 1 rep in front of him the whole time.
Yeah. Being very much in the mindset of, especially for newer people, just having your blinders on and focusing on only what you're doing and not caring what anyone else is doing, because no one cares what you're doing. You shouldn't care what they're doing. So just focus on your own lane, essentially, for lack of better words.
Yeah, and the community is super helpful with that too. No one's there to judge you or anything like that. Everyone's there to help, pick you up and teach you the ropes and support you. So, we're talking about all these things, intentionality, drills, whatever. Some people might not care about any of those things, right? They're like, I'm just here to try and sweat and make it hard for myself to get off the ground at the end of the workout. So what would you tell those people? Do you think that's how they should continue?
I think that's a really good question. I think in regards to, there's like a saying there's a saying, how you do anything is how you do everything. I kind of disagree with that. I don't think that's genuinely true, because you have millionaires who are crappy husbands. You have pro athletes who are shitty friends and can't hold a relationship. Like you have those differing things, but I think for some people, they go day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year without seeing any sort of progress or recognition from anything in their day to day life. In their job, you can to some extent, but you can't really objectively measure a lot of the stuff we have in the day to day world. Like I can't objectively measure, like you can get a raise, but you know, that's cool. That's here and there. That's very far and few in between for a decent amount of people. Like, so finding a path or finding something as in like an outlet for you to push yourself in, to constantly try to grow in a certain area, to choose something to suffer for, to choose one thing to kind of focus on and push yourself in that you can actually measure is probably going to overall make you a better person, because then it's going to kind of filter into all those other different aspects. You may not be able to see the actual progress objectively, potentially in your relationships, in your workspace, in your just general life. But I think just not even necessarily the dopamine hit you get from, say, increasing your back squat 5 to 10 pounds a week, but just the push and the effort of, hey, I did my best. I set a good intention for the day. I went back at night or after the workout and I kind of reflected and I'm like, you know what? I did that to the best of my ability and I did that how I intended to, is a lot. It says a lot about someone, and it says a lot for someone to try to sit there and like live actually through their values and choose like virtuous lifestyle. And I think I'm kind of rambling at this point, but I think it's a good way to go about living, because then that kind of spills into everything else.
No, and that's a good point. So part of that is being able to track that progress. And, that's different between, stuff in your personal life, different between stuff in your gym life. I've seen you with your book writing workouts, and I'm not sure what else you write in there, but I know you have a book and I've seen you writing in it. What are you writing in there?
I log every single day. My coach sends me workouts that I kind of obviously follow when we try to progress week to weekend. And I like to sometimes go back and, like you say, kind of reflect on what I've done in the past. Like if you even like take my workout book I have right now, and then you go back to a workout book I had like last year, just the night and day difference of what I've accomplished and what I can do now is completely different. I'm going to steal my analogy from my coach that he used once with me. Talks about like the iPhone. There's obviously 38 million different versions of the iPhone, but you look at the iPhone 1 and the iPhone 2, they're basically the same phone, slight change, right? Then you have the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 13, whatever number we're at now, slight change, but basically the same iPhone. But if you look at the iPhone 1 to the iPhone 13 across the spectrum of the years and months and days and minor tweaks here and there in regards to what the Apple team or as yourself as an individual have decided to shift about yourself, about your community, about the people you surround yourself with, it's a completely different thing. And so if you focus on it like that, kind of taking that detached view and 10,000, 30,000 foot view of like, okay, what story am I trying to tell here? What am I trying to write? Am I making like a hero's journey, or am I just kind of going at it like, I don't really care. It's just an hour. I'm just going to burn some calories so I can smash some cheesecake, which I get it. But what are you actually doing for yourself? At the end of the day, it's not just a workout.
It's a fair point. I like that quote. We might need to post that somewhere. That's pretty good.
Got you.
So, would you recommend people start trying to journal more? Because I know we're talking about, the iPhone 1 to the iPhone 13, right? But it can be hard for people, or at least I think it'd be hard for me, to recognize those wins in between. Because if you're looking backwards, let's say in that same example, right? If you're looking back just a year at the other iPhone, you might not see that big of a difference, especially if you're not keeping up with what you're tracking. Because I really don't do that too much. I don't have a workout log. I've attempted to do that before, but I'm a little ADHD with it. And, after a good month or so, I've moved on to something else. But it's probably super helpful, right, to understand how you're moving, how you felt, what you did. So are there any tips you would have for people when it comes to tracking their stuff or logging?
Yeah, I would say there's a couple different things you can kind of think about. What I like to do is I like to do this thing called modeling. And so I basically just kind of set my day up like this each day, whether it be working out, whether it be setting an intention for a day, whether it be anything, you name it. So I'll start kind of my morning practicing some gratitude, what I'm grateful for, just kind of getting some good energy in my brain, essentially. And then I'll set up a model for me. So what I like to do, it's kind of big into like the stoicism world. So it's almost thinking about what would someone you really see as like a giant role model, what would they do? So for me, the kind of funny thing is like there's the story of Hercules. So Hercules is very vice or virtue. Like he decided to choose virtue and challenge himself, and then ended up being a god and like that whole ordeal. A lot of people know the Hercules stories, but when I'm asking myself what challenges I'm going to face for the day, what things am I going to have to conquer today? What do I want to get out of the day? I also kind of put in there, what would Hercules do? If I had a panel of a bunch of great people from history, fictional, real, family members, loved ones that you see virtues in that you really admire about them, how would they face the challenges you're going through today? How would they face the things that you're struggling with currently? What would they say about how your actions are occurring throughout the day? And kind of just starting with something like that, I think, helps you shift towards living a more virtuous life, because obviously the people aren't actually there. You're having a conversation with yourself. And that's, I think, the best place to start is having those conversations with yourself about, okay, I want to live this certain life. I want to have some sort of purpose. So how do I set myself up for success? What have the people in the past done? What have these people I admire done? And then throughout the day, once you've kind of set that intention or like written that down of like the challenges, the stuff you're going to face throughout the day, practicing mindfulness throughout the day, I'll actually check myself. And if I'm in a conversation or I'm having trouble with a client or I'm in the middle of something like a training workout, I'd be like, okay, what would Hercules do? What would I do if Tommy was standing right here? What would I do if Moral was standing right here? You know how like when you're walking around the room, the coach is walking around the room, everybody speeds up when the coach walks by them. What would I do if he was constantly there the entire time? Because people tend to move a little bit faster when someone's watching them. And so kind of setting yourself up for those mindful moments throughout the day is going to be a really good way to see success. And that's kind of just like a starting point. And then at the end of the day, you kind of sit there and just be like, okay, like I kind of talked about before, what did I do well? What did I do really badly? What could I do differently throughout my day to kind of help me shift my ship more towards the direction of Hercules or Superman or Wonder Woman, whoever your person, or Moral Scott or Tommy Allen or Dustin Ma? Like who do you want? Who do you look up to? What do you look up to about them? And how can you live like them in regards to like their virtues and things you hold high in regards to them? And I think that's probably, I would say, the best starting point for people in regards to journaling. It's something I've seen great success with recently more than anything, but it's a way to steer you towards something that's already there and innate that you're already thinking about. And yeah, so you might as well do it.
I like the mindfulness with thinking that someone's watching you. You see, or I've heard, right, the thing where it's like, hey, dance like no one's watching, but Robert Johnson, you better move like I am.
You better move like I'm right in that room.
Yeah, which is good to think about too. And I'd never really thought about it from that perspective during a workout, but yeah, definitely guilty of it myself. You see that the coach is, moved away from you, focus on someone else, and you're like, all right, we're about to shave
foot off the gas.
Yeah, cool, we're doing fine. Or yeah, you're just walking around, especially when people are on rowers or bikes. It's very obvious because you can hear it too. So you're walking past them and you hear that rower or bike start to crank up as you get closer to them. So that's a good point. I like that. That's a good analogy. So with all that, right, we're talking about some pretty deep stuff of really how to get better, which is awesome, right? Hey, this is tangible. This is how you should think about things. This is how you get better. But how do you balance all of those things and still keeping it lighthearted and fun while you're in the moment?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I'm gonna kind of say something that's probably everyone kind of knows. Getting better at something is super fun. I don't care who you are. If you're actively progressing in something, you're like, oh, dude, hell yeah. Like, I'm getting better at this thing. I'm getting stronger. I'm getting more fit. That workout was way easier than it was 3 months ago when we first tested it. And being good at stuff is fun. Like, I went bowling this last weekend. I suck. I bowled like a 106. Miranda beat me. She bowled like a 110. I'm trash at bowling, but it's still like fun because I'm with friends and we all suck. But if I was but like if I were to go bowling again and I bowled like a 110 or a 115, I'd be like, oh dang, like I'm getting better. I need to come back again and get like another cha-ching, ring that out. Like setting yourself up with those incremental progressions is fun. I think in my own weird kind of not twisted way, but in my own weird way, like it's fun being good at stuff. So if you are struggling and you've been, let's say, the person who struggled for 3 years to get double unders, or 6 months or 12 months to lose those 10 pesky pounds or whatever it may be, you're kind of disheartened. You're not having fun. You're not enjoying the process because you're not seeing actual progress. Like, I always like to tell people there's an island we're swimming for, but the island might not be there, so we might as well enjoy the swimming. I think I've shared this quote with you. I've gotten it from the angry therapist, John Kim, and it's a really good one that resonates. So it's like, how do we enjoy that process? Okay, it probably starts with focusing on small incremental wins that we can have throughout the day. Like, going back to your point of like, how do we track those daily wins and that progress? Like, think small to start. Think very small. Like, I have days where I'm like, okay, well, the warm-up felt really good. Like, I felt really good with moving the barbell, and like, that was awesome. So it's like, let's have more of that, like focusing on that positivity, or that moment of just like, okay, maybe like going to last night, we had a conversation about, I was like, I went out way too fast in my workout I did last night. And it was just kind of like, okay, well, I did really good on the first 2 rounds. It's like just kind of shifting that perspective and not being like obsessively positive about it, but shifting to, if you can't find a win or something to be grateful for, just water it down. Like today I had a good 5-minute shower. It was nice. I enjoy showering. It's just like a nice little peace and quiet time for me. So it's just like, that's cool. I enjoyed that. And it's like, that can be your win for the morning, evening, or night, whatever it may be for you. Because there's probably always something you can be grateful for. There's people that have it better off than you and people that have it worse, but there's probably something you could be grateful for, whether it be a roof over your head, whether it be a blanket at night, whether it be anything, something along those lines. There's probably something that you can track as a win or to be grateful for.
Yeah, 100%. Great way to put it. Yeah, there's definitely something. And that's good. It's a good positive mindset. So when you are talking about these wins, you're talking about celebrating them. Most of that conversation was celebrating it internally. And I'm sure this is different for everybody, but how do you think it's better to share these goals with someone, to share these wins with someone, or try and keep it all to yourself?
Ooh, that's a good question. That's a very good question. I think it's a little bit of both. Like, I think it is good to have a little bit of that humble brag because let me preface this. If you have a good group around you, they're going to be like, oh, heck yeah, man. Like, awesome. Or if you have people that aren't that good for you around you, they're going to be, hey, no. Settle down. Your life's not that great. It's not that good. Like if you have the right community around you, I think they're just going to boost you up. And people always talk to me about motivation. Motivation comes from acting or like action and actually achieving something. And you kind of once you kind of get that momentum, the motivation just keeps building. And you're like, okay, cool, progress. Okay, 5 double unders, 10, 15, 20, 30, so on and so forth. Like, you need to first take those actionable steps to get you headed in the right direction to get the ball rolling for yourself. But to answer your question, I think it's a good mix of both. Just because internally, I think it's really good because you might go an entire day without hearing anything good about yourself said to you in regards to someone else saying it, in regards to thinking any thoughts. We're very prone to be negative as humans. So I think anything you can say to yourself positive is a good thing, whether you get to the end of the day and be like, hey, Robert, it was kind of a shit show of a day, but you handled it like a champ and I'm proud of you. Like, it's like that could literally be the only positivity you have for the entire week. And I'm dropping tons of quotes. No one's coming to save you in regards to anything in life. I'm sure that's kind of like a hot topic one right now. Like, no one's coming. It's all on you. Your choices, your mindset, your efforts, your decisions you've made up until this point have have given you what you have right now. And taking that complete ownership of it is just going to help you become more empowered and be able to kind of seize back any. I lost my train of thought, but it's going to help you keep progressing forward. I think you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, 100%. So we have a bell in the gym.
Yeah, we do.
It's supposed to signify, when people get PRs or whatever, they're supposed to hit it. Not a lot of people do it. Why do you think that is?
I think they're afraid. I think they're very afraid. They're very insecure. And that's okay. It's okay to be insecure. It's okay to be afraid. It's okay to be anxious. It's okay to feel like you need to make everyone else comfortable in the room. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, maybe that bell ring is the only positive accomplishment you've had in the past month. But you're going to take that away from yourself for the sake of others, or for the sake of maybe someone else didn't get a PR today. So you're like, oh, I don't know. Like, I don't really want to ring it. But it's like, you earned that, like it's selfishly, it's yours. So go ring and break the bell. It's like, okay, you did all this hard work. You put all this effort into it and you got a PR. Why not celebrate that? And who knows, maybe there's other people in the class, because as humans, we're all very anxious, negative, lots of different things. There could be other people that are like, oh, I got a PR, but like, no one else is ringing the bell. So like, should I ring the bell? And maybe you just hitting that bell sets off a catalyst for 6 other people to ring the bell. Like it all starts with one person deciding to do something to just initiate a wave of super dope awesomeness.
That's true. So do you think as coaches, do we need to paint that thing a neon color so it's more obvious? You think we need to be like, you think, hey guys, got a PR. Why don't you go ahead and ring that bell?
Yeah, because sometimes I forget it's there. I haven't rung it in a long time, and maybe that's just my own fault. But I think that'd be good. It would bring some good energy, and people tend to. I have yet to see someone ring the bell in our gym and it just be quiet. Like people ring the bell and everyone's like, yay! Like the coach is yelling, everyone's yelling. They're like, yeah, so it's a positive thing. So I think, yeah, we should definitely start ringing the bell a little bit more, and we can paint it whatever colors we need to paint it, just to make sure that everyone can clearly see where you need to go when you hit a PR.
Mm-hmm. It's a good point. I'm gonna wrap it back around to talking about skill building. Ooh. And we just talked about, hey, things that people might not be aware of in the gym. One thing I think we should highlight that we get big levels of success with are the seminars that we're doing on a month-to-month basis to help with those skill building. So what do you think, if you had to give like a quick 30-second, hey, this is why you should attend those things, what would that look like?
30-second pitch. I would say attend every seminar you can, because the coaches are taking their time to take something that they have a lot of knowledge in to teach you. Plain and simple, is in like one breath, one sentence. Like, and it's probably something that we as a staff have chosen that most people struggle with, hence why we're going to have a seminar on it. So it's kind of not just one person's idea, like, hey, we should do this next seminar. It's not just like an afterthought. It's like, okay, we as a community struggle with this thing. Who's the best we have on staff with said thing? Or who's one of the best? So we're going to put them in a spotlight, set up a group of people, set up a class time, set up a window of just focusing on that. And bring your friends, bring your wife, bring your kid, all that stuff. Like, come have fun, come learn something, because like, as you kind of said previously, we don't always focus on every single skill in class, because there's a lot of different skills in each different class that like not everyone's going to have. So on those double under seminars, on those muscle up seminars, on those snatch seminars, on those days where we do have that super high focus on those key items, you definitely should be there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think it adds a ton of value too. For people who do want that, that's a good outlet for it. And yeah, doing once a month right now, we're doing those. We got a snatch seminar coming up at the first week of November, I think. November 6th. That first. Those type of things are stuff that can add value to people. What other? I know we've talked a little bit about remote coaching as well. I think one thing we're going to start adding to those seminars is, and I think we did it with the rowing as well, being able to say, hey, came to the rowing seminar, here's this, template we're going to give you for how to do rowing workouts, depending if you were a more endurance or more power-based athlete, right? So how did you see success with that when that last one came around for rowing?
I would say it was very successful in regards to the fact that it gave people like take home homework, because a lot of people would be like, oh, so hyped up, so awesome, like cool, we're spending this hour and a half working on these things, and then they never touch it again. And then 6 months down the road, they're like, oh wait, I still suck at this thing, or I'm still not very good, or I left there and I had some cool stuff I could focus on, but I didn't really know how to put any of that into practice. And I think this gives us, or gives you from us, a good starting or jumping off point to kind of get you heading in the right direction, to get you that momentum from taking action rolling, and to help you once you're through that 4 weeks or whatever it may be that we set up for you, to come back and reconnect with the coach and be like, okay, this worked really well. I feel like I've seen a lot of progress in this. What can we do next? And then we just keep kind of progressing you and progressing you and progressing you. And it's like anything. If you don't practice it, you're not going to get any better at it, or it's not going to stick with you. I don't remember how to do algebra because I haven't done it in, I don't know, 5-6 years. But if I had been practicing it 5 minutes a day, I'd probably be pretty good at it at this point. Not that it's useful, but I'd probably be good at it.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you think that'd be something that'd be good to make more standard when we're doing these seminars, to have not only, this hour and a half long focused skill session with drills and tips and testing certain things, but also making those, maybe it's a 4-week thing, maybe it's a 6-week thing, that's a template where our athletes can use that as homework. Do you think that's something we should try and make more standard throughout all the seminars?
Yeah, I think it definitely could provide a lot of value for people in regards to what I was just kind of saying, is that it's going to give people action items when they leave. They're going home with something that they can actually hold on to and be like, okay, this is what Coach Morrill said to do, and this is going to help me see progress. So like, I really want to get better and improve on this. And okay, cool. Week 1, week 2, week 3, I'm improving. Okay, cool. I'm having fun. Okay, now I'm getting better. Now there's more value for sure. Yes, to answer you.
And so once, let's say maybe they get to the end of that template or right after the seminar, is there anything else that they might be able to do to reach out to you as a coach to say, hey, I really want to work on snatches, or I really want to work on double unders? Is there anything in our arsenal where we can give people more one-on-one attention, drills, particular coaching, anything like that?
Oh, 100%. We have actually a full-blown remote program. So if you've enjoyed kind of that remote template that we gave you, and you're very self-reliant and motivated to get workouts done, and you're kind of already in that habit, we can continue that progress and kind of set up with a good consultation post the 4 to 6 week cycle, whatever we have with you. All of our coaches on staff are able to do that. So you can set up a time to meet with them after the fact and be like, okay, we saw good progress here. This didn't work really well. Maybe we should tweak this, but like, here's what the next 4 weeks would look like for you if you were to decide to work with me. Or if you've seen me in the mornings, I'm doing a lot of PT all through the morning. We have a lot of personal training options in regards to me, you, Miranda, Layla, Morgan. Everybody kind of does also personal training, because we all have the repertoire and the skill set to teach you anything you're probably struggling with in class or even outside of class that you want to improve on. So yeah, it just kind of starts with having a conversation or having an email, or just being like, hey, I suck at this. What can I do? It's pretty straightforward in that regard.
Good point. Yeah, all you got to do is speak up, and things tend to happen. That's a good point.
Speak your mind.
Speak your mind, and you shall be rewarded. So, Mr. Johnson, any other final remarks that you have here that you need to let these people know?
I don't know. I feel like I'm never good at like final remarks. No, I think I dropped all the gems and nuggets I needed to in that combo.
Did drop a lot of gems and nuggets, and we're going to be trying to clip some of this and put it out to the world on our social media and everything like that. As time goes on, man, want to have you back on here, talk about topics. We're going to try and mix it up with some new videos, new content on the website, social media posts. So a lot of cool things coming the members' way when it comes to District H, and anyone else who's listening here who wants to be a part of it. Love to have you. So appreciate it. See you next week. Talk about some nutrition.
Heck yeah.
Peace out.